Hello and welcome to this edition of the Rest is Entertainment Questions edition.
Wow. This edition of
I find something
Rest
new every
Entertainment
time.
Questions edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions and answers.
Yeah.
Welcome. Remind me,
Oh,
please,
sorry.
of your name.
I'm Marina Hyde.
Excellent. I'm Richard Osman.
It's getting so much worse. That's
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it should be pretty slick by
theoretically
now.
I should improve.
Theoretically, yeah, it should
I've
be
got no
slick.
retentive memory.
I think it's good though. I think it's nice. It shows some humanity.
But we are quite literally doing the show right here. Let's put it on.
Yeah, we really are.
Hit me with a question, please, or just hit me.
Okay, I have a question for you, Marie. It's a questions and answer edition. Lots and lots of lovely questions. Thank you so much for your questions, everybody. And thank you, Michael Dolan. On many opening title sequences for TV shows, certain actors are preceded with "and" or "with." What is the significance of this?
Ah, okay. That's basically the same and or with. But
So was he name, and it would just say
With
"and" or guest
Richard
starring.
E. Grant
or,
as the dog in Mars or whatever it
Yes,
is.
yeah.
That's actually when they name the character, which is a whole separate thing. We'll get
Dogs
to that
in
in a
Mars, by the way,
second.
Netflix have been in touch with. We talked about, we
Yeah.
made up Dogs on Mars.
Yeah.
Netflix got in touch, not interested. But so let's we move on. Amazon.
Someone was
Yeah, I've got Amazon Prime next Wednesday for us.
Now, okay, so what it really means and or with is you've got a major actor in not necessarily a minor role, but not the lead role. So you some people used to say it was villains and mentors. So, and Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever it is. But there's sort of, I guess there's 3 times where your agent will really go out to bat for you. Maybe getting you the role.
Yep.
Deciding how much money you get for the role, and then in how you're credited for that role. And that's very important. And there are all sorts of different ways. It's as you become more important, it's called cards. What that thing is, when you see a name on a screen, and you might be on a shared card when you're in a smaller role, and you might see 3 actors' names or 3 writers' names or whatever it is in one. Pre-title is, as we all know, is obviously the big one in movies. When you get that, people don't really have it in television, but it's really when an actor who is part of the core cast but isn't the lead role. So that's why you have and or with. They used to have, back in the old days, they used to have that, it would say and introducing, and that would often be a young performer.
Nice, yeah.
But people felt it was a kiss of death, it was a curse, and that if they'd said that, then, you might be introduced and then we may never hear of you again. And some shows, of course, will just be alphabetical, so then you're not really arguing about billing, and that's often done because you've got it's an ensemble cast, you've got a lot of egos, and you just think we'll do it alphabetically, and that will just keep everybody happy.
And that would be, there's a thing in all television called favoured nations, which is the way you are treated is the way everyone will be treated. There is not anybody on this show who will be treated better than you in terms of money or credit or whatever it is. And yet, if you ever see a show that is not in alphabetical order, then it's just taken a very, very long time to get to the order of those credits. If it's an alphabetical order, you think, oh, great, that's lovely and easy. It's nice and simple. If it is not in alphabetical order and it's not like a 3-hander or something, then, oh my God, the work that's gone into that.
Completely. There are sometimes when they have to come up with, this is a very old example, but there are times when they have to come up with kind of creative things to do. In Point Break, a movie from the 90s with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, they started with their names on either side of the screen, and in sort of like it's a surfing movie, and then they end up sort of crossing in ripples. So it's like no one's really on the right hand or the left hand side of the screen because everyone's been on all the sides of the screen.
Same with posters, isn't it? If you're on the left hand side of the poster or the middle or the right hand side, it's everyone's got an opinion.
And the size of your name on the poster and the size of the font, every single thing has been an argument for somebody. But and or with mean the same thing, and it's just major actor not in a lead role.
Yeah, and often, things like Columbo or something like that, where someone would come, you'd have someone coming in to really chew the scenery for you.
Oh, the guest star of the week. That's it. Yeah.
That would also be an and or with. But yeah, it's fascinating, those things that agents' credits are unbelievably political.
Yeah.
Are they not? It's like a huge deal. As you say, even, you said font size is very quickly, but actually, I mean, huge.
Oh, you can do 2 weeks on font size.
Yeah, but
2 weeks of screaming rows on font size.
And because some words have slightly bigger, some letters have slightly bigger sizes as well. So, there are people like measuring the other actors' font size and things like that. It's absolutely crazy. I should say 95% of actors are absolutely good as gold and don't worry at all. But it's it can certainly be an issue with the other 5%. Or their agents.
Or their
sometimes you talk to actors, and you're like, God, it took like a month and a half to sign off that credit. You go, what? What are you talking about? I can care less.
I would have been happy either way. Yeah,
exactly. And sometimes they're even telling the truth.
Okay, here's one for you. Chatter in the ear. Michael at our city asks, how much chatter is there in a game show host's earpiece? Is it distracting?
It's a lot of Michaels.
Yeah.
Writing in today. Did we? We didn't.
It's Michael's week.
We didn't say last. Oh, did we say that last week? I've forgotten that we did that.
Yeah.
It's a good question. There's. I mean, so earpieces that you wear, they used to be they'd be sort of tied on a big sort of elastic band to your belt, and now you have a thing called a Wizzy, which is entirely wireless. So you put it in your ear, you cannot see it. It's absolutely invisible. So I have one on House of Games. I have one on Pointless. Whenever I go on a TV show and I don't have a Wizzy, I always reach up to my ear as if I've forgotten something.
Yeah.
There are two types of talkback, really. So what the Wizzy is doing is it's connecting you to every single member of production who has a microphone and a button that they can press. That would be the director. If you're on House of Games, it would be the question editor, and the producer as well would have a route through to you. And anyone else who needed to talk to you can use their routes, but basically they're the only people allowed to talk to you. If you are in a news environment or a sport environment, so if you've got, Gary Lineker and the guys, they will often be on open talkback. Now, open talkback means you can hear the whole of the gallery. You hear every single thing that is going on. You hear the director calling the shots. You're saying, we're on camera 4. Okay, we're on camera 5 now. We're camera 2. You hear the vision mixer cutting the shots. You hear the producer talking about what's just happened.
This is an anxiety dream.
Oh, I know it. But some people love it. That's the thing. And listen, we're all wired differently.
Yeah.
Right. But also you hear, by the way, gossip. You hear just people chatting. You hear someone saying, oh, did you see the match last night? You hear everything. And some people like having that in their ear, especially if they're a solo presenter sometimes. They like knowing that something's going on. I'm on what you call switchable, which is you only hear when people actually want to talk to you. So what do you hear? Different for different shows, of course. So on House of Games, let's say, for example, if there's ever a mistake, someone would just say, if there's a camera move, there's been a mistake or a lighting, someone would say, oh, just stop there. So literally allows you to stop and say to the contestants, oh, we're just taking 2 seconds. So that's super easy. Because on House of Games, I never know what the questions are or the answers, so I don't know anything that's coming up. There'll be tiny little things like the questions editors, which would be Tom or Abby, who both speak in my ear. Usually a question comes up on screen and I'll read it out, but sometimes it's a song comes up or a picture, and of course I don't know that before it comes up, so they'll just say in my ear, and who is this, or and what is this song, so I know before the thing comes up, so I can just say that without having to worry about an edit. So they'll say things like that. If a question is contentious or interesting and we're all talking about the answer, they might give me a bit of extra information. I will often say, oh, someone upstairs will help us with that, and they will talk to me. Occasionally, if they're being very kind and there's a big laugh in the gallery, the director or the producer will press their button so I can hear everyone's laughing, and that's nice. But occasionally it gets stuck on open, and sometimes I will just leave it on open because it's interesting to me. Occasionally, it sort of blows your mind, but it's nice to hear, and it makes me feel incredibly nostalgic for the days when I was in you
were one of those people.
Gallery.
Yeah.
Now, lots of shows I could not be on open because sometimes it shows up the gallery is absolute chaos, and I can't. It's just like everyone just like shouting and cameras and this, that, or the other, and it's just awful. But if you have on House of Games a guy called John Smith who directs it and is such a calm presence, and that's a lovely calm gallery. And if you are stuck on open, you're getting the occasional and 3 and just pull in on 3, please. No, I'm fine, thank you. Actually, I will. Yes, with 1 sugar. So you're essentially listening to that, which is lovely, but. For a news presenter, they're getting an awful lot, and so I've done, if I do the one show, which I love to host, you're getting countdowns in your ear, which is a huge thing. So I don't have to have that on House of Games. There's no kind of...
What, for a VT package or something like that?
A VT package or a graphic coming up and in 5, 4, or, the end of an interview, and, wrap it up in 10, and they're counting down 10 to 1. When you see someone like Alex Jones just going, and that's all we have time for today. Tomorrow we will be talking to Rula Lenska. We are also going to be having Bonzo the dog from Dogs on Mars is going to be coming to see us right in the studio, right here. We will see you tomorrow. And that's absolutely set to the music of 10, 9, 8, 7. And so that's a great score, and it's a really kind of lovely thing to do. But
do you get practice before you go out there for the first time?
You do a lifetime of watching television.
That's it. It's
you
just you understand the rhythms.
Yeah, you absolutely get it, because you
okay.
absolutely get. If you were presenting the one show and they said you got 8 seconds out, you go, "That's all from us. Join us tomorrow. We'll see you've got a few things on screen you can say." And it has been absolutely lovely to see you all.
I think it's pretty clear from the intro to this episode that I would struggle to present the one show.
Honestly, I assumed you were on talkback and someone was talking in your ear throughout, because I couldn't see it.
No one could possibly be making those mistakes.
So you get stuff, if you get stuff wrong, people tell you. It's kind of, sometimes I'd love to have an earpiece in real life, because by and large, you only hear from it if someone's helping you or if someone's praising you.
Yeah.
And what a lovely thing to have that would be.
That would be, really, okay, I think that's extraordinary. I couldn't listen to all that chatter, I don't think.
I couldn't do, for the news people and that sort of stuff, it is amazing. And, and then there's, because news as well, in a live environment.
For breaking, if it's a breaking story, I don't know, like the story of obviously the massive story at the weekend with Trump. How much is going into your ear in that?
Well, you've got two things there, because you've got a computer screen in front of you where feeds are coming through and scripts are coming through from the newsroom. You're absolutely being told constantly, "Oh, Gary O'Donoghue is standing by, but it's going to be 3 minutes. I'll let you know when Gary is there. Meanwhile, can you cross to so and so? Read out the statement on the screen." Now you are just being constantly bombarded with things to do and things to say, and so if you ever see a presenter in that environment, and they always look incredibly cool, they are being told 5 different things all at once. And the second you do cross to a VT, sometimes you are interviewing that person, so there's still no break. Sometimes it's a VT and you've got 2 minutes just to sort of catch your breath, and someone will literally come in and you can then talk to you face to face, which is, you get an awful lot more information. But other than that, you're sort of stranded, like in a sort of moon capsule, just with Houston talking in your ear, and you're trying not to crash.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah. House of Games is a lot easier, I should say. And also, if you mess up on House of Games, no one minds. You just keep it in. It's perfect. And talking of the Trump thing, there's been lots of questions on Twitter right afterwards to both of us about whether shows are tagged with keywords so that you can work out whether to pull something from the schedule when a big news story happens. We talked a little bit about before, but specifically in this...
Yes, this is... Channel 4 pulled an episode, that scheduled episode of The Simpsons, which is Lisa the Iconoclast, which I can't remember what that's from, maybe season 7 or something like that. But it has got a sort of rooftop assassination attempt in it. And this happens quite often. There was a Doctor Who episode which had a beheading in it. And when James Foley was beheaded by ISIS, they pulled that episode. And there was a IT Crowd episode that had a bomb threat in it, and that maybe as a repeat was pulled with the Glasgow airport attack. They're very sensitive to this, but it is a collaborative thing. As always, this is another thing that compliance departments really do. And so every show and every episode obviously has to be signed off by a huge number of people, and this is how you know things like, oh, there might be strobe lighting coming up in this episode. There's a whole checklist of things that you have to answer. It's a standardized form mostly for every single thing that might ever appear on television.
I was like when they say very bad language bad language from the very beginning. Count
from
me
the
in.
outset.
From the outset.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where I like my bad language.
Yeah, that's me too.
Don't make me wait, BBC.
And unless someone's shouting the C word in the first frame, then I'm like, that's not that bad.
Guys, come on.
Everyone's just like, oh, relax.
Yeah.
Anyways, when it is, we will have had to have filmed out a form for every single one of the episodes. And it will have things like, offensive language, gestures. Lots of these because they are sometimes mentioned. Sexual content, innuendo, nudity, various types of violence. A big one is imitative behaviour. So things like drug use, solvent use. You feel like you don't see that so much anymore.
No, you don't, do you?
That's like, self-harm, suicide, things like that.
Yeah.
These are things that you have to... and also things like, does this program require a counter program? If that program would be subject to, say, impartiality. So they're all it is a standard form, and it doesn't matter what type of show you're doing, you've got to have filled this in. So yes, then it becomes a sort of searchable database, and you can see, oh, hang on, and when something like the Trump assassination attempt happens, you think, it's such a big news event that it's the type that would affect. So you go through everything on the schedule, and you can see what you've got the ready-made record. So it isn't like one giant, great big list of everything, but it's a database that you can search.
And which, interestingly, the streamers don't have to do because they've got such a huge library. It seems, with if you're BBC and ITV, you're scheduled something, you're putting something in front of people.
Quite right.
And therefore, it's you have to be very delicate with that.
No one's going to say, why is Day of the Jackal still on Netflix? It's like, because it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
This episode is brought to you by Sky.
Now, Richard, you have a brother.
I do.
The wonderful Matt Osman from Suede.
Why do you ask?
Would you describe yourselves as close?
Yes, different industries, but yeah, we love each other.
You sound closer than the two brothers in the new Sky original, Mr Bigstuff. Stars Danny Dyer as Lee,
please.
An alpha male with a prescription drug addiction, as well as a biscuit tin full of their dad's ashes. Also, yes, please. And Ryan Sampson as Glenn, a nervy perfectionist and carpet salesman striving to live the suburban ideal with his fiancée. Glenn's life is very peaceful and exactly how he likes it until his brother comes crashing into their lives, and it's not long before their perfect lives start to unravel faster than the weave of a cheap carpet. Ryan Sampson also wrote the series. He's an absolutely fantastic comic actor. He was in Plebs and, of course, Brassic, another Sky comedy.
All episodes available to watch now, only on Sky. Marina, I have a top 3 for you.
I'm just doing these like there's no tomorrow now. I work for the top 3s now.
Very excited to see. Very excited to see what order you do them in. Maybe you'll start with number 2 this week. Who knows? Could be anything. The question comes from Bradley Travis. Could you reflect on John Williams' influence on Hollywood and give your top 3 of his film scores? So there's 2 things there. So top 3, but also a nice open-ended question.
Yeah, John Williams is the composer. People probably know him best for lots of his Steven Spielberg and George Lucas movies. John Williams is amazing. He's the most wonderful. If you've ever heard him interviewed or watched him interviewed, he is the most extraordinary, lovely, humble man. He's so sort of self-effacing about this enormous influence he's had. When he sort of came to prominent, when he started out, lots of people in the 60s, people used lots of pop records really because they thought, we can sell the LPs of these, we can make it extra as movie soundtracks. And he kind of returns to a much more sort of symphonic, classical way of scoring movies that was harks really back to the 30s and 40s, the real golden age of Hollywood.
Almost feels like a live accompaniment.
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah. I mean, so many of his ones are completely memorable. Spielberg and Lucas, I guess, they define that kind of blockbuster era. And maybe that's why, and he worked so often with them. I'll tell you what was a missed opportunity, I do think, is that Harry Potter, I think he only did the first 3 movies. And I think because a lot of what he did, because he worked often on these franchise movies, was that he goes on and develops, people get their own themes, all sorts of things. So each movie, it kind of accrues the musical influence, and the score kind of resonates even more. And I think actually if they'd kept him all the way through, they would be doing better. This isn't making the top 3, but I wish it were, but if it was a top 4. Close Encounters.
Okay.
That 5-note, which is it's part of the score, but it's also the communication signal from the extraterrestrials. It's so simple and it seems obvious, but it's not obvious. And
like the 4-note Channel 4 logo, which the guy got paid a fortune for.
Yeah.
Gets played it anyway. The 5 John Williams. So I think Close Encounters was also number 4 in your Spielberg list. Didn't make the top 3.
I know. Well, he's amazing. I mean, he's done so much, John Williams. I think he's the second most nominated living person anyway in Oscars history. And I think Walt Disney is the most nominated, but obviously he's no longer. But Jaws is the first big budget movie in a long while to use it. First of all, we know it's this kind of, in popular legend, the first blockbuster opens coast to coast all at the same time in thousands of theatres. But it's the first one to go back to a classical soundtrack. And when he played it to Spielberg, which he did it on the piano, and it was like, just, it's those sort of 2 notes and then, a couple more notes. And Spielberg was like, no, but you're not actually serious. And he was like, well, I think that when we've got the cellists and the bassists doing this, and maybe we've got contrabassoon, timpani, and Spielberg's like, okay, if you think.
I mean, because on the piano, that is literally what you do if you sit down at a piano and you can't play the piano. You did it like this. But he does. But it's that leitmotif thing and he got that from like Wagner and Tchaikovsky, and he really reaches back right into classical music. So I think that's very interesting. And then
those motifs build up and the way he uses them in film
Yeah.
scores, and they return in different ways. So, okay, number 3, speaking of sort of returning
so Jaws
things.
wasn't number 3?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay, so that's outside the top 3 as well. That was an adjunct.
Jaws
Oh,
was 1.
Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me?
I did it wrong again. If you didn't hear that, it's because I put my head in the desk. I'm so sorry. I've done it wrong again.
Did
Who am I
you
working
not
for?
at any point while you were talking about Jaws then, which, by the way,
Because I was getting excited.
Genuinely so interested. I found that so interesting. And I thought, wow, if this is where we are in number 3, imagine how interesting number 1 is going to be.
You know what? I'm going to make my number 2 my number.
No, you're not.
No, I'm going to make my number 2 my number 1. Okay, number 3 is The Empire Strikes Back. I've literally done it in 2, 3. I can't believe this. Okay, number 3 is The Empire Strikes Back, and I tell you why. Because you do get the classic Star Wars theme, which, okay, fine. You get the classic Star Wars theme,
Yeah.
which we all know. But then you get the Imperial March, and I think that's his favourite thing he ever, Darth Vader's theme. I think he says that's his favourite piece that he's ever composed. And you get Yoda's theme, and there's some sort of Han and Leia love story music.
Yeah.
So that would, okay. 2 is Jaws, although it isn't really, is it? It's number 1.
That is unbelievable. Listen, let's just do number 2.
Okay, number 2 is E.T., because the final 15 minutes of that are almost all musically scored. And what he tried to do is he tried to sort of work with the cut that Spielberg had showed him, and he couldn't quite get it. And in the end, Spielberg said, forget this. You compose the music, and I will recut the ending to your score, because if it's not working in your score, then maybe there's something not quite.
Wow.
And it is so amazingly held together, that climactic final 15 minutes of that movie, and it is so beautifully done and beautifully orchestrated. All puns intended. And so he recuts the end of the film to fit the music, and then it all works and it hangs together in that beautiful way.
That's
so that is okay. And then I'm going to do my number 1 once more. And
what's this going to be?
Because
wow.
Because of the simplicity of it and the terror of it, and the way that you hear that music, those two, I suppose because of the pure simplicity of it, it's sort of 2 or 3 notes, and you hear it in the back of your head at moments of like, oh, hang on, I got to watch out for something here. Everyone's like, no, in their head all the time.
How did John Williams play that for Spielberg? Any stories on that? It's good, though. It's good. Listen,
I'll tell you what, there was some good detail there, and it maybe didn't come in the right order, but you got it.
I like the fact they're all Spielberg movies as well.
Yeah,
that's nice.
No, Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Strike that from the record.
Strike that, yeah. A question about potentially one of the top 3 greatest TV series ever, Horrible Histories.
Oh, yes. Very much so.
Lisa Severs, Colt's sister.
You released a Colt. You don't see many see. That's cool.
Yeah, you don't see
from the
so
Fall
many.
Guy.
Yeah, Fall Gal. She's the Fall Gal.
She's the Fall Gal.
My kids and I absolutely love Horrible Histories, rightly. She didn't say that, that's me. And my kids especially know all the songs by heart. The parody songs are absolutely wonderful. And as part of my kids' education, we like to compare the original music video to the parody versions. Do these obvious song parodies have to pay royalties to the original artist at all?
It's interesting. The world of parodies is quite an interesting one. We've talked before about the money you have to pay if you have songs. You have to pay to quote lyrics in things. But if you were doing a parody, you can get away with it pretty much. And certainly with their parodies, which are not the original song, they're just sort of changing it bit by bit. I spoke to Ben Wilbond from Horrible Histories and Ghosts and a million brilliant things.
He's wonderful. Listener to this podcast.
Absolutely. Hi, Ben, if you're listening. Can you imagine if he is? Hey, Ben. I wonder what you made of the order in which you read out the John Williams things. He's probably, honestly, I
would
reckon,
have respected it. He's my friend and he'd have liked it.
Yeah, he really would have liked it.
Yeah.
He'd have gone.
He would not have undermined me.
Yeah.
And made it so that next week I will potentially just fall to pieces completely on a top 3. I mean, if that wasn't, perhaps arguably was falling to pieces.
But this is what it's the soap opera of the thing, you know? Is Alistair Campbell going to lose his temper at Rory at some point?
You never know what's coming next.
You never know what's coming next. So the question is, do they have to pay royalties? The short answer is no. The songs are a deliberate parallel, but as long as they don't copy any chords, there is no breach of copyright. Richie Webb was the composer for all the music during my time. He is the master of all those songs and managed to sail very close to the wind. So it's by doing a sort of close copy, you get away with it. Top 3 Richie Webb songs? I'm joking. Let's not get into it. Look at the panic on your face.
Well, I'm trying to think of the ones that I did, but and I'll come back because I've watched all of these shows about 100 times, so I'm trying to think of my. I'm going to say
number 4. So number 7 for me would be Thank you very much, Ben, and thank you very much, Lisa, for the question as well. Yeah, it's interesting with that parody song, and recently they changed the rules so you can take pretty much any footage you want, and so long as you're doing a parody, you don't have to pay for it, which is why there's so many more incredible kind of memes and parodies of real footage that you're sort of covered by law now that you can pretty much do what you want.
Well, they were fighting a real losing battle on that one with just the way that media has gone, and social media particularly, that they spent so long trying to sort of gatekeep every single thing, but there is actually no point. And it does enhance the original.
But lovely to have a shout out for Horrible Histories, which is generally one of those things that you think it has improved a whole generation. And to see them go on to Ghosts, I want to do a proper talk about Ghosts and the global domination of Ghosts at some point.
Yes.
But to see that group do that show, which is so full of joy and so full of skill and talent, it's so funny, and to have a generation growing up with them, it is possible to improve the world if you are a writer and performer.
And have a brilliant time while they're doing it. I was talking to Lolly Adefope on about it, and she's like, it was just the best cast ever on Ghosts. Yeah. They just loved it so much.
We had Lawrence Rickard on House of Games recently, and it's so funny when you have people on because everyone was just in awe. Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. It's so great. And just it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people as well.
Yeah.
I have a question for you from Chris Mills, which I've chosen because I don't know the answer to it, and I thought it was rather interesting. Chris asks, why is it that in music, album covers generally do not change from the day a record is released through all the many re-releases in different formats, whereas book covers do all the time?
That is a very good question. Album artwork has always been regarded as, artwork, and it's part of the concept of the album, and it stays the same always. And the thing about music is that you sounds so obvious, but you come to it comes to you audibly, and that's your first encounter with it almost normally. Unlike, you're not like me buying a bottle of wine, looking basically on the label like, I quite like this cover of this, I'll buy this album. This doesn't work like that anymore anyway. So you've got much more license in lots of ways to create something that is in keeping with or enhances the album's concept or whatever it is. Whereas books, almost always, even now when people are going through Amazon rather than they're going into a bookstore in itself, you come to it visually and you see the cover. But so that really matters, a book cover, and you have less license because you want to sell it, and people come to it that way. They have also
and far more of an impulse purchase sometimes. Books in that you would never be in a record store, look at 20 records and like the look of a cover and just go, I'll buy that.
Nobody does that.
Whereas with a book, you got the nice quotes on, you got a little bit of information, and you got the cover, and that it's
it's like a magazine cover. You need to be selling that thing. And also, obviously, publishers use the many changing covers to refresh the idea and think, that's such an ancient cover. We can make this look new again and relevant, or we can say, there's been a movie adaptation, so let's have the picture from the movie on the front of it. Then also, I mean, obviously, your books have started a big trend. What you also want to say is, this isn't quite the same, but it's like the Thursday Murder cover. It's like, because you want people to think, it's the sort of halo effect of that particular aesthetic. For a cover aesthetic, I know what I'm getting here, and I would like to pick up some of those. Your artist, who is
Richard Bravery. It's an interesting one because I love things then come up in Penguin Classics, but if you've got Ian McEwan or something, John Self on Twitter, who I love on books, he's absolutely brilliant, but he's also very good at showing different versions of books over the years and how they've changed and how the covers have changed. And every sort of 5 years or so, you will try and you'll just reinvigorate a back catalogue by changing the covers. It means you can go out to bookshops again and say, look, we've got this new edition of 5 Ian McEwan novels with different covers. It just means that you've got a slightly different selling point. I'm in that position where I don't like having different covers on things. I like to have.
Yours will always. You're in the position where you don't have to.
I don't know.
You can stay the same.
But with the movie, for example, they will want to do a movie tie-in front cover.
Yeah.
I don't want to. What do you think about that?
Why not? What would you advise me? What about you're all about the audience? If the audience wants it, maybe they want to.
I just like it to be what it is, like an album. The book is the book. But then I guess there's
come on, in 15 years, you don't think they'll change the cover?
Of course they will.
They'll say they will do. I think if people want one, then maybe it will bring people different people's
I don't like it though when you see a front cover of a book that you love and suddenly
it's a TV show.
Tom Hiddleston's on the front of it.
Yeah, I know. It's right way to ruin it.
But you know what I mean. That's Anyway, listen, it's a fight that I will lose, but a fight I'm going to have. But the second you see, Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren on the front cover of Thursday Murder Club, just refer me back to this and tell me I'm a sellout.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't. I just keep the front cover. It's interesting they wouldn't re-release albums with different covers, but I guess it's just different, isn't it?
But I think it is really an expression of the art, and I think that they never have done that for a reason, and they become iconic, and they stay. Maybe that's what that's more your sensibility, and you wish to stay iconic in that way. No, but
all I wish, Marina, is to stay iconic. It's all I've ever wished.
And you are iconic. You're in my top 3 icons, and I'm going to tell you in which particular order.
What number? 14.
On that note,
that by the way, Chris, and all the questions have been great, but that's a really interesting question. I've never ever thought of it before, and I'm gonna think of it far more as well. We had some AOB, didn't we, about we had the question about the studios at the Euros, and then we were talking about how the studios were going to be in Paris.
Yes, we're not talking about the Euros any further for obvious reasons. We are looking ahead to the Olympics, which start in on the 26th of July. Now, Dan Hearn, who works for Arena Stadium Solutions, says, read the settings for the Euros and the question around settings for the Olympics. My company is building the TV broadcast studios for Paris, so I can tell you exactly where they are. Nestled just behind the Musée National de la Marine de Paris and the Musée de l'Architecture in Trocadero. So it's a temporary multi-storey building that's going to be taken down after the games. We talked about those. But the backdrop for all the TV stations will be the Parisian vista of the Eiffel Tower, the Seine and beyond.
Dan, all I was waiting for throughout the whole answer was Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
Yes.
Listen, it sounded great and the French was great, but we were all waiting to hear Eiffel Tower, weren't we?
Yes, we were. And have you seen the BBC's little, they've released now their trailer for their Olympics coverage, which I think is very good. Yeah.
I saw the Paralympic trailer, which is great as well.
I haven't seen that one.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you so much. I am going off to Top 3 boot camp now, and I will return next week, leaner, meaner, and perhaps hungrier for more mistakes.
And in order.
Yeah. Well, let's not be too hasty. But listen, the email address to send in your questions is therestisentertainment@gmail.com.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.